Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? Before we get started today, please understand that any advice in today's session is of a general nature only and that your personal circumstances have not been taken into consideration. Okay, we have a fairly full week this week on the news front, as you can see from my screen at the moment. But before we do that, a couple of things that happened last week, a couple of highlights. The major talking point was the weakness of the US yen, and when we have a look at our charts, we'll see that we did predict that there was a higher probability on a break downwards, and that did happen, and the US yen did decline. However, the US currency didn't suffer against all the major currencies, so it held its ground fairly well against the Swissy, the Aussie. It was mainly against the yen that it suffered as it did. Another currency that fell quite significantly last week was the sterling, okay, and it started to pose a test towards that 140 level, which we'll have a look at in one moment as well. As a consequence, what we've seen is that most of the central banks have changed their outlook from a less hawkish, or should we say a more dovish tone. In other words, they're not as aggressive, and they're feeling that economy is not as great as it was. So interest rate cycles, or any talk of interest rates continuously increasing, have been dampened. Okay, it's going to be quite interesting to see if the Bank of England changes its tone as well. Especially after Friday, we had the surprise of a drop in industrial production numbers for them. Okay, so what we have this week is essentially we have China CPI numbers, which should set the tone and possibly have a look at what's available on the agenda. It will dictate commodities somewhat. The trade balance number for China. We also do have on the US front, we have quite a few. We have retail sales, core sales, PPI numbers. We have the Bank of England, the official bank rate. So a decision on their interest rate. Nobody expects really a change at this particular point. The more interesting number that often comes from this is the bank votes, just to see how the members of the board are voting towards that interest rate decision. So if this number comes in something like a 5-4, where it's a lot closer decision, that can generally make the market move significantly. We also have unemployment claims and core CPI numbers for the US, and finally production and GDP for China at the end of the week. I think this week the one that's going to be under scrutiny the most is possibly going to be the Aussie dollar again. Okay, so the AUDUSD. I did miss just there the unemployment change numbers as well. So there's a lot of US data, Aussie data, and significant China data that makes the Aussie dollar the one to keep an eye out this week, specifically to be impacted by news data releases. Okay, let's bring out our charts and let's have a look at what we have coming up. Okay, we'll start off with the Aussie dollar. Now, the Aussie dollar, we got stopped out on a trade during the week. We took this inside candle coming down trade, and funny enough, market went down and went up as well, gave us this double fractal candle. All right, now in essence, we really, in theory, we still have a technical setup. We have an inside candle across these two there, so we could be semi-interested in taking this trade. The only thing that's stopping me from taking that trade is that this candle is a double fractal candle. Okay, and remember, as we've said before, the double fractal candle is the one that we tend to not use in our price action analysis. So because of that, we are going to give this one a miss, and essentially it's a trade that I do, it kind of favors in that direction, and we did get stopped out of one, only barely, but we did get stopped out during the week. For right now, we don't have the setup, so let's not force the trade, and let's leave this one alone. So let's have a look at the next one on our calendar. Okay, the euro dollar. The euro dollar is kind of taken that high out, but it hasn't really kicked on and created higher highs. It's entering a period of what we would call a little bit of consolidation there. Let me just step out to a 4-hour chart and let's see how this looks. You can see the congestion here on a lower time frame chart. Say on a 4-hour chart, we can see that there's a little bit of consolidation going on there. And really for the euro at the moment, we wouldn't really want to be interested in this trade until we get out of that region, either to signify that we are in fact coming back, or we are progressing and kicking on with the current situation. Now let me just measure. This consolidation zone is only about 115 pips, so it's not a basically with a 4-hour chart, it's not tradable, because by the time you get your price action entry, you're probably beyond the halfway point. So if I wanted to take a trade in this direction, my entry might only show up there, and which would basically mean this does not leave me enough room to hit to my target. So the range is not tradable off a 4-hour chart. If you did want to trade it, you could possibly go into something smaller. We'll go into a 1-hour now. Off a 1-hour chart, you may perhaps get the opportunities, but I'm going to leave this one alone. And essentially, let me step right back out to my daily chart. There it is. And you can see the area that I've marked out as my consolidation is this one over here. And I'm going to wait to see if it falls back into place or continues to go beyond. What I was actually hoping for during the week was a pullback into here somewhere and get a nice price action entry to try and take that trade, but it hasn't happened. This is the candle that gave me the fractal, and as you can see, I really didn't get the best setups, so I'm going to leave this one alone. Okay, so I'm half tempted to be a buyer, but no, let's leave it. Let's wait for it to come out. Let's see what it shows for us. Okay, let's move on. GBP USD. Okay, the GBP had a fall this week. I'm looking at the charts now, and there does seem to be a bit of a hotspot region through here, but it's just a little bit too... Okay, I feel that this has gone beyond, so we won't look at that. One moment. Okay, and I now recall that last week we had a triangle drawn in here, something along these lines. So some of you may be in this trade already as an entry into a falling or breaking out of the triangle trade. If you're not in this trade, the other way that we can possibly try and get into it is if we get a little bit of a pullback, and then we would hit the trade at some point over there. So actually, to get that trade, we don't even really need the triangle. Now the triangle is the first reason that we were in, but what we could be looking for now is a candle. Let's say, for example, if we get a bit of an up candle like that with a little bit of a wick, and then we follow it up with something like this, and then we can get our price action trade coming downwards. Okay, where this is my red candle, this one here, I'll color it in, and this is my green candle, something along those lines. So what we would need to wait, possibly it might be ready by about Thursday. So let's wait and see what the candle plays out. I'm going to leave this top support line in there to see if we do come back and test it again. But at the moment, I think for the GBP USD, it is testing this 140 region. Okay, this is the 140 region there, we can see. So what I'm really kind of, the best probability trade that I can see is if we get a bit of a pullback, get an inside or a engulfing candle, and then shoot downwards. Okay, let's carry on. Let's have a look at gold. Okay, as you can see from my charts, I had this rising wedge that we had drawn on there, but it hasn't really played out. It did break down. Some of you may be short gold. I think this was off a 4-hour chart, but let's get rid of them. What I can kind of see, it looks like we could be getting the formation. It's not the best head and shoulder pattern that I've ever seen, but there's one of the shoulders, there's the head. If this becomes another shoulder and it goes along that like that, the way that I would trade it is I would draw a line across the neckline as this, and then when I break down, that's where you would trade it. Now it's not the clearest head and shoulder pattern, but it is somewhat of a head and shoulder pattern. It's really the only thing I can see available on gold. The moving averages are just starting to cross over again. We never really got an entry, a price action entry. I'm just looking, possibly this one, but they're the same color. It's not the best entry. At the break there, that was an entry. It would have been a little bit more advanced. Wouldn't expect many of us to have taken that trade. I certainly did not. So look, with gold, just wait. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see if this pulls back down and gives us an entry at the break down there. Okay, so that's the only thing that I have for gold for you this week. Let's carry on. Let's have a look at US yen. Okay, the US yen, we had drawn this region and we were up here and we said that we could be breaking downwards. Now there was the entry, that was the clear break. So if anybody took that trade, that's about 270 pips on that one. Okay, that's the shorting of the US yen. Now that trade's already played out. So essentially what we now need to wait and see is we need to wait for this market to pull back into an area where we can find some price action again, and then we will have our next opportunity to trade it once again. I'm not interested in any way, shape or form of being a buyer in this market. When the trend is so strong, I just continuously keep looking for entries in the same direction of the trend. And let's not change that pattern, and let's continue that, and that's what we are going to do. Okay, so US yen this week is fairly simple. We're waiting for the market to pull back, show us our price action entry, and then we're going to look for the trade in this direction. Let's have a look at the euro yen. Okay, here's the euro yen. Now, when I last spoke with you last Monday, we were looking for an entry in this direction for the euro yen, and this is one of the nice things about price action. The candle that we were looking for, it basically didn't come up, so essentially there was no trade, so there's no damage done. We are now reaching this area down here. Let me just zoom out a little bit more and let me take a bit of a closer look to see if there's anything worth attempting on the euro yen. Okay, we're not quite at the bottom. In any case, I would have been interested in trading these two candles there, a nice inside candle. But in any case, notice that this little wick has broken downwards, which basically means that the trade is not valid, because the trade that I might have been interested in was trading off this hot region, and it would have been at the break of that candle up there. But since we broke the bottom, we really must cancel that order out had I put it in. So essentially this one, there is no trade at the moment. So what I'm really looking for with the euro yen is I'm looking for a better test down here. Okay, so what I think may happen is that this candle may come lower, get right into the hot area, and then we might get our inside candle, and then we'll get our opportunity to trade a double bottom bounce. Okay, now if this does not happen, if it doesn't come down and test it, you're also able to trade. If we get to this region and we get a price action entry that way, we are also able to trade it downwards. As long as you've got enough room, make sure that this area here would be your 1-to-1 region, okay? Because if you don't have enough room to get to here to 1-to-1, then it could be a trade that is running straight into a brick wall, and it may not play out for us, okay? So as long as if we get a pullback with a price back entry to short, make sure we have enough room for our first target, which is in front of this region here, okay? All right, so that's the euro yen this week. Let's take a look at the Kiwi dollar. Kiwi dollar is one, there was a little bit, this looked to me like an entry right there to go in that direction. Now what I'm not 100% sure of is it broke down and broke up, and I'm not 100% sure which direction it broke because I wasn't looking at this one. I did get stopped out of 2 trades last week. I got stopped out of the Aussie dollar and the Euro AUD. Okay, so I did not take the Kiwi one. I thought 3 was too many for the similar movement. So I don't recall if we broke down or broke up first. Okay, so if it did break up, let me see if I can work this out. Give me 1 second and I'll try to work it out for you. Okay, I've just changed my chart around a little bit. This was the start of the candle. I've dropped down my 4-hour chart. This was the high of the previous candle. This was the low of the previous candle, and you can see that the market went up first. So that means that this was a legitimate trade, and then it came down and hit the bottom side, but it did not get stopped out. So give me 1 second. Let me clean up my chart one moment. And let me go back to a daily chart. So what that means is that this was a legitimate trade, which is still live in the market, and it has not been stopped out. So my stop would be over here somewhere, and I would technically be a buyer. So if anybody wants to buy right now, even though you've seen it late, the entry would have been about there. You're actually getting it at a little bit lower price. Okay, if you wanted to wait, if you want it to be just one little bit surer, only because the entry would have been this is a Friday, Thursday. The entry would have been Thursday. Okay, like I said, I already had 2 trades, so I didn't take this one. But if you wanted to wait one more little bit just to be extra sure, wait till you break this candle, because then you would have had another inside candle that you're breaking forward, and that would be a little bit more evidence for you. So the 2 options are, you can either jump in right now, because if you had traded on Thursday you would still be in this trade, or option 2, you can wait till you get to that level and then take the trade. Okay, because I'm pre-recording today's class, I don't have time to take it right now. I will take them as soon as I finish this recording. Okay, all right, so let's move on. Euro AUD. Euro AUD was the other trade that I was stopped out on. Basically, we had this set up there. We broke downwards. Trade started to go positive and then just turned around and went up and stopped me out. Okay, so have a look at this. We've got another setup right now there. As long as we take out this low, the moving averages are very, very close to each other, but essentially, the moving average is the only thing that's just turning me off. So this is what I suggest. What you'll notice is where if this candle goes down to this level, the existing candle, if it goes down to this level, what you'll notice is that these moving averages will change. They're a little bit separated right now, but they will change. They will almost be on top of each other. Okay, so if this candle ends up being a candle that finishes like this, okay, these moving averages will look like they will correct all the time along. So what I'm saying is, if you are willing to take this trade, it would be a correct setup at the break of that bottom candle, and the trade would be in this direction. Okay, now I know we just got stopped stopped out of a Euro AUD, but that doesn't change the fact that this is still another setup. Alright, so that one's on the cards as well. Alright, and finally, let me have a look at the Aussie 200. Okay, the stock market's come off the boil last week, and we've just coming into a ranging little moment. I would like to see this pull up before I sell it. Alright, so where we stand right now is no action. If I want to participate in this market, I am wanting this to go up a little bit and then basically sell it as I've shown you right there. Okay, now apologies that I've had to pre-record today's class. I've just had a family emergency, so I've pre-recorded it. It doesn't change the fact I still looked at the markets, and everything that I've said would have been the same as per normal. Any questions, please email me as always, and I will see you all on Thursday. Bye for now.